So starting off with Dynamite Dunes, you do have the Dynamite Blaster roller coaster here, which is overall a very good roller coaster, and it can't stick around for the entire scenario unless it crashed or something like that, because it does remain relatively popular. The first thing I'm doing here actually is I'm replacing the paths with my own set because I don't like the default paths in Dynamite Dunes. It's just this zigzag going across the dune here, which I think is rather confusing to the guest AI, which isn't that good in terms of paths, so I just replaced it with something more straightforward. The banners I'm only placing temporarily to get people to not step onto the old path, so I have an easier time removing that soon enough. Actually, if you pay attention to the bottom right corner of the screen where the calendar for the game is, you will see that there is a lot of skipping and a lot of big skips in this scenario, because this scenario is very slow, to the point that I would call it forgettable, because if you asked me what is the second scenario in Rollercoaster Tycoon 1, my answer would be, oh, of course, it's Diamond Heights. Which it isn't, it's Dynamite Dunes, because I just do not remember the scenario very well. The scenario is another one of those, get enough amount of guests into your park with this sort of value for your park. So it's basically Forest Frontiers, only now you have 3 years to play through and not 1. So the information kiosk is currently being researched, and I set it to only researching gentle rides because you saw I have the railroad unlocked, but I actually wanted the monorail, so I was trying to get that. The thing is, by doing this, I actually made the scenario longer and even worse for me than it usually is, because I'm missing out on better attractions coming sooner because I'm waiting for the monorail to arrive. Most of the time I use the monorail as a sort of little shuttle service going on, a bit like a U-Bahn underground train going on. So it goes from one side to the dune, through the dune to the other side, which isn't very exciting of course, but it does keep most of the guests rather well entertained. Plus, the monorail is considered an inside, or at the very least a covered attraction, so it still remains popular even when it rains. So the log flume here is finishing its little run here, and I noticed that I was getting rain here, so I quickly built a covered attraction with a haunted house and just slapped it down near the roller coaster. Since I removed several of the path parts here, I had to pause and put the guests that were wandering off back onto a path. Otherwise they end up stuck and they're like, I can't find my way around because their AI is really stupid and it requires paths to really know where it's going. So you can see here's the first big skip. I decided I'm not getting the monorail fast enough for my liking, so I'm just going to build the miniature railroad. It isn't considered a covered or indoor attraction by default, but I believe I did notice during this scenario that enough of the track was underground or covered by the dunes, so people were still riding it when it was raining. This is a minor thing with the dunes. The ground is so light that you don't usually see where the marker is for where the next track goes, so I found it a bit difficult to get that together. As you can see here, I'm basically slapping the miniature railroad down. I just wanted to be there to serve as a bit of a, like I said, a shuttle service. So it goes from one end of the park to the other, because this is a problem with the scenarios. You start off with a rather decent size of land, but the dune is in the way, and the only attraction you have means that all of the guests have to go a very long path to actually get to the first attraction. So here's another big skip to September. I'm actually getting a thunderstorm right now. If you look a bit further near the log flume, you will see that there are some constructions there. I cut out the part where I tried to build a wooden roller coaster, but it didn't work out so well, so I got rid of that. So I'm just building a mini steel roller coaster, and I intentionally... This was a little indention in the dune, and I filled it with water, and I really wanted the roller coaster to go as close into the water as possible for a bit of excitement. Here I noticed I had a bit of trouble, so I had to take a longer route to get the roller coaster to get back into the other end of the station. But it overall worked out really well. There's another rather decently big skip coming up, which I can tell you mostly came about because, as I said, the scenario is very slow, and I'm just sitting here with the camera stationary waiting for things to go on, get new attractions, get more money so I can do things. I also ticked so that I get everything back, or everything researched. I got the suspended roller coaster, I didn't build one of those. Here we have the go-karts. This is a thrill ride, and I was thinking of putting it close to the roller coaster for excitement ratings, but that didn't work out so well. It didn't have enough room. The thing about go-karts is they are incredibly broken in this game. The guests are super interested in go-karts, and they absolutely love them. They won't ride them when it's raining, of course, because it is not indoors. I believe if you manage to make majority of the track underground or covered, so to speak, it is considered indoor enough that they will ride it. But the thing is, they really love the go-karts, and I usually do it so that it's a race, but it's only with one lap. So I always want to make sure that the queue isn't too long, because otherwise it takes too long, and the winner of the race always gets an extra lap. So you do have to account for that, when you make the queue. So here we are all the way to August of the second year. As you see, there was really not much going on. It's just a very slow scenario where nothing goes on. In fact, I would have been very happy had they skipped this one entirely, because it's not interesting. There was a big skip, and you saw I got some more scenery types, so I got some mining stuff which I put near the dynamite blaster. So you have a bit of the mine aesthetic going on in the back of the park, and here up front is more desert. Most of the time I don't really care much for scenery, but I am trying to do a bit more with it, just so the parks don't look too boring. So here we have the stand-up steel roller coaster, which at this point I was like, where are all the other ones? And then I realized, I remembered that you have fan-made tracks when you install the game, and they are listed as U with numbers next to them, but I had deleted all of those because I didn't want to use them. And I remembered one of them was very small and had very good parameters, and I was trying to recreate it with this roller coaster, but it wasn't until later on that I realized I was mistaking this roller coaster with a different type of roller coaster. I do manage to get the roller coaster type that I was thinking of. Here I'm trying still to make it akin to the one that I'm thinking of, not realizing my mistake, but things aren't going so well, and I'm just trying to salvage the roller coaster in some way. I have to put the power launch a bit higher because otherwise it can't get up all the way. Yeah, you can see I'm trying to make things a bit more interesting by making it faster, but that didn't do much, so I'm trying to make the roller coaster longer and making it a bit more interesting so that it doesn't feel like another failure at building an interesting roller coaster. That was a problem that I had in this scenario actually when I was recording this. I was very much failing at building roller coasters. The wooden roller coaster didn't work out, this one doesn't work out. Much later on I actually tried to build the last roller coaster type that I unlocked, which was the suspended single rail roller coaster, I believe, and that didn't work out when I tried to build it, so that was also cut out. I was just not doing very well in this scenario. I was intentionally crippling myself by only getting gentle stuff unlocked to get the monorail, but I ended up getting the monorail at a time when I didn't even notice it. I just went back at one point, looked at the gentle rides, and I was like, oh, I have the monorail now. I don't remember when that got unlocked, but I have it. So I finish up this roller coaster and waiting to see if it's really worth keeping, but turns out it isn't, so I end up just scrapping it, and I replace the haunted house with a Gravitron that I just unlocked. It's a thrill ride, it's pretty good overall. It's just another one of those, it's interesting for them, but they won't go for it when it's raining. And the loan has been entirely paid off, so that is always very nice. This is the roller coaster that I was actually thinking of. It was the Corkscrew Rollercoaster. I'm trying to replicate the one that I saw as one of the fan tracks saved in the game by default. And that was basically just corkscrews over and over until it goes back into the station. So you have to have it as a powered launch, and as you can see, it's a very short ride. It doesn't take a whole lot of space, but looking at the parameters, I really liked how it turned out. So as you can see, it has decent enough excitement and intensity. Nausea isn't that bad. So I decided to keep it, and after I get the path done here, I actually save the track so that for further scenarios, if I have the Corkscrew Rollercoaster unlocked, I can just quickly build this one and be done. I don't even remember how much it cost to build it. So, as you can see here, another big skip. We're getting practically to the less than 6 months of the game. I unlocked the upside down, the Überschlag swinging ship, and you also see that I had since gotten rid of the log flume. It was still decently popular, but I wanted to get rid of it. So we have this going on. And then I decided I need something here near to replace the log flume, so I decided to build a water slide. The water slides are decently okay. I personally don't like them much because if they are half pipe, as this one is for the most part, you do have the problem and the worry that the floaty rubber boats can fly off and crash, which, if I recall correctly, you can avoid this simply by making a water slide that is entirely closed, but I didn't want to do that here. I didn't really need the chairlift there, as you saw, because the boat was going so fast that it didn't need a chain lift to keep going up until pretty much towards the end of that. But I keep the queue short for this one because I don't recall water slides being that interesting. We also unlocked the Freefall, which again, for I'm guessing this language version of the game is considered a woe belly. For me, it was always a Freefall. I was thinking of putting it near a roller coaster, but I didn't have that much room. And one thing you have to know about the Freefall, even if you have handymen spread out around the area, it is always good to have an extra handyman who only works pretty much in the immediate vicinity of the Freefall, because your guests are going to be puking a lot from this thing. Replacing the merry-go-round with the cinema, and it wasn't until I changed the camera that I realized, oh, I accidentally put the entrance where I wanted the exit and vice versa, so I quickly had to fix that. But for the most part, I'm skipping more and more because things are just going so well. I have 13,500 euros as immediate spending money. I end up with almost 25,000 near the end, so things are going well. I'm just letting time pass so that things just get to the end of the scenario. So here we are, things are going well. I have a lot of puke going on near there because of the overhead swing and the free fall. Everything looks fine, and I have almost the scenario done here, so should be coming up any second now.